Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Fox LightHoverTank, the fifth vehicle in my Armoured Fighting Hover Vehicles series. My name is Wimperman, and I am the Chief Designer, Chief Builder, Chief Architect, and of course Chief Dumbass behind the Fox LightHoverTank Update project. So, let's come out of that view real quick. Now, before I show you around the updated version of the Fox LightHoverTank, I will of course first show you the original vehicle. Here is the original Fox Light Tank over here. This was built before the game was released. So of course there was no such thing as CPU or weights and volumes and various other things. So this is what it originally looks like. Now you will notice when we go back to the updated one that the shape has changed a lot, because you'll notice I've got my Ocelot Hover Scout out behind it. Now even the original Ocelot was shaped similar to this, and when I came to update it, it just felt too similar to the Scout car. It's almost like someone slapped a tank turret on top of a Scout car, and it just felt a bit weird. Although it is larger, but you know, even still, it's similar shapes. Although you might notice that the side skirts, I guess you'd call them, where the thrusters and the hover engines are very, very similar. Now, I've taken the trussing off because they're actually quite heavy. And being a light tank, I wanted to keep it relatively light. So I took those off. I mean, they were only there really for decoration. A quick look inside. Now, there was no way to get from one side to the other. It was just walk in the door and get in the seat. That's how it used to be. Okie dokie then, let's take you round the updated version then, and we will start with its role and its task equipment. So as I'm sure you can guess, being a tank, its role is an anti-vehicle and anti-base ground combat vehicle, specifically a light one. So to facilitate that, it has an artillery turret, which I consider to be my tank turret. I'm sure most people do, because it sort of makes sense that it would be. And it's also relatively light, and it's relatively maneuverable and agile and fast as well. Relatively, of course. I mean, I'm sure there are loads of people who slap, 100 thruster jets on their tanks, and they move around like Formula One cars. But for my Armoured Fighting Vehicles series, it's relatively fast, agile and maneuverable. Okay, so that's the end of that segment. The next segment then, of course, is its propulsion, handling and lift capacity. Okay, its propulsion is fairly simple. It has 4 medium tier 2 thrusters in all directions. Its lift capacity, it has 4 small hover engines on by default, 1 on each corner, plus an additional 1 on each corner set to max lift. You will notice there are no jump boosters on this vehicle, as is usually the case. I start with them on, find I need to save CPU, and off they come. So as for its lift, I'm going to do this early on in the tour this time. Shut up. So as for its lift capacity, it will lift with all 8 hover engines on. It will lift 40.7 tons in 4G. Now the vehicle itself, as it comes stock, is 29.4 tons. Now later on I'm going to go through its upgrading, and assuming you do what the signs and the labels say, it will come to 33 tons. So it's still capable of operating in 4G even when fully upgraded, or at least what I will show you anyway. So for its mobility, its stats are such. So maneuverability, forward acceleration is 25 meters per second squared. I'm sure you can guess it's the same in all the other directions, because all the other directions, that's the same thrusters. Its agility then, 39 degrees per second yaw, 25 degrees per second roll, not that that's particularly important, and 10 degrees per second pitch. Again, that's only really important if you're going up a hill, but otherwise it's not very. Handling then, this is how it drives even without, pilot mode on. So let's take it for a quick drive, and as you can see, it gets up to its maximum speed fairly nicely. And it's relatively agile, in my opinion. Again, compared to the other vehicles. Am I stuck on something? Oh. It's almost like I crashed into those vehicles over there. Anyway, whatever. Right, so that's the end of that segment. The next segment then is its power, fuel and air. So its power is provided by two small generators, and those small generators are in the back here. As you can tell, the core is there. Now, like the Bobcat hover truck, I put the generators and the core together because they're the things that could be shot at. Now, obviously they're at the back, so you need to be careful running away. But if your vehicle is gonna die, I mean, I speak for myself, I would rather lose these and keep the whole rest of the vehicle so that I can come back and salvage it once I've, killed off whatever killed me, because the other components are rather expensive and these aren't. So that's those. It has 3 fuel tanks, which are accessed through there. There's another shutter on the other side, mirror image. So there's one there, one on the other side, and then one in the middle between them on the center line. The air, there is only 2 O2 tanks, one there and one accessible through the shutter on the other side. For ventilation, it has 1 ventilator, and as I usually do, those who know will know, I will prove that it's oxygenated in here by turning on the blue shapes. Right, so that's the end of that segment. The next segment then is its weapons, defences and construction. Well, as I'm sure you can tell, it comes armed with an artillery turret. That is the only turret it comes with. And the only other weapon it comes with is a single Gatling gun, now, which is there. Now, there is supposed to be another one there, but obviously I had to take it away for CPU. But yeah, I'll come to that again when I come to the upgrading. Now, the turret is set to the following targeting parameters. Where do I need to go? There. So this is what I consider my tank turret's configuration. It will fire at the weaponry of hover vehicles and bases. So its defenses, well, it doesn't have a shield, but it does have some armor. However, in order to qualify as a light tank, its armor profile is similar to the non-tank vehicles in the Armoured Fighting Hover Vehicles series. So, although it does have some combat steel on it to help protect you, the majority of the vehicle is hardened steel. Now, there is a small amount of steel, but most of that is decorative. Anything protecting something is going to be hardened steel, except around the very squidgy bits. I'm pretty sure the lag shot armor in here is not. Okay, I thought it was. Ah, there's the combat steel. That's not, because it's just protecting a corner. Right. Yeah, okay. So there is some combat steel on it, but the rest is hardened steel. Next segment then, after that, is its resource gathering, production and storage. Well, as I'm sure you can guess, it has no resource gathering, although the original Fox tank, I'm sure you noticed, did have a harvester module on the front. But as I've said in the tours of some of the other updated AFHVs, I've done away with that because it kind of takes away from vehicles that are intended for wood gathering. Production, it has none. It doesn't have a constructor on board. And storage, so its ammo container, which is behind the gunner seat, is a 1375 SU, which is just enough for a full stack of 15mm bullets for the Gatling gun and 60 shells for the artillery turret. It also has 2 small cargo boxes flanking the driver's seat, but that's it. That's everything with regards to storage, other than the fuel and the air. But, you know, that's covered in a different segment. That's the end of this segment then. So the next segment is its interior layout and any remaining devices. So, hang on, let me turn the signals back on. So, the side doors and the ramps and the ground lights under there are controlled by the sensor that you can see on the side of the gunner seat there. The astute among you will notice this door is only 2 blocks high, so you do need to crouch to get in. And I did a bunch of testing, and most of the time, even on a wonk, you will be able to get out the seat still within the vehicle and crouch walk out. So, other remaining devices, there is a heads-up display for the driver there that shows you the device groups and signals shortcuts, which I will come to in a bit. There is another LCD projector there, which gives the gunner a nice heads-up display as well. Now, I tried moving it down so that the compass there wasn't in the way, but I couldn't quite manage it, but still, maybe someone cleverer can. Anything else? Oh yeah, the Wi-Fi and... Oh, you just saw the other one, actually. The detector is underneath that glass pane there, which itself is underneath the artillery turret barrel. The Wi-Fi is there, behind the ammo container and in between the O2 tanks. And it has 4 docking pads, 1 on each corner. And I'm pretty sure that's it. Yes, I think so. Okay, so the next thing then, or the next segment, is its shortcuts and signals. Now, with almost all of my vehicles, the devices are grouped into custom groups, and some of the signals and shortcuts do rely on the custom groups, so please be careful when you're adding new stuff. I would recommend not using the auto group function, because that might break something. So, on to the shortcuts then, starting with the device groups, and as usual, the top one is its propulsion, etc., which turns on all of the thrusters and what I was referring to as the default hover engines. The max lift switch switches on the other hover engines. The headlights turn on the little lights at the front that are set to spotlight mode. And finally is the ventilator, or at least finally for the device groups. Now, just in case this is the first tour you've seen of mine, I add a ventilator switch because if you look at the power left when I turn off the oxygen, it doesn't change because although it sucks in the air, it doesn't turn off the ventilator. But if we turn off the ventilator, it will save some power. So if you're in an atmosphere that is breathable, you can save a bit of power by turning that off. So, the custom signals then. The first one is power save, as usual on my builds. Now this doesn't do much on this vehicle, but it does do a little bit. So it turns off the LCD projectors for the heads-up displays in here. It'll also turn off the chair. it'll turn off these two motion sensors for the ramps and the doors, so you'll need to use them manually, and it turns off the Wi-Fi. I don't think I added one of the generators. No, I didn't. Sometimes I do. It depends on the vehicle, and I couldn't remember if I had on this, but no. Okay, so... Oh, no. I did this in the last tour, actually, for the Bobcat. I did that and then moved on. So, the weapons, I'm sure you can guess, turns on the turret and the Gatling gun. The tail lights, of course, this vehicle has my patented red flares on the back. That turns those off. Of course, if you don't like them, you can turn them off. And if you absolutely hate them, you can multi-tool them off. And finally, we have a closed doors switch. So if you leave... Oh, actually, it won't do those because those are on the center. But if you accidentally leave one of these open, you can then flick the switch and it'll close any that are open. It won't reopen them if they're closed. Right, that's the end of that segment then. So the next and last segment is its CPU and upgrading. So, you saw the core earlier was in the middle at the back. Its CPU is just over the 12,000. It is tier 2, I should say. It's just over, not by much. And if we have a look at the blueprint, let's have the blueprints. It is 98% effective. Now, if it's anything below 96, I will always rework. Hang on. That's the Ocelot, because I spawned the Ocelot in, didn't I? There we go. Oh, it's still 98. So, yeah, anything under 96 will be reworked. And in fact, I think there was more fuel on board before. And like I said, there was meant to be a Gatling gun, which I took off. So, upgrading then. It does have an upgrade path. It can be upgraded to tier 3 with a shield. Now, if we go underneath, you will notice 2 shutter doors here. You need to manually open them because they are also set to the closed doors switch. And because they're on that signal, it means opening one won't automatically open the other. But here is the upgrade slot. As you can see, it's all relatively well labelled, in my opinion. So you pop... I would recommend, just in case you're relatively new to the game, you will need to turn the vehicle off before you start playing around with this, because if you, especially if you put in the shield generator first, that'll overload the small generators in the back and they'll go pop. So yeah, turn it off, replace these 2 screens there and there with large generators, pop a large fuel tank there, then you pop a shield generator there, rip at that CPU extender, and in its place you put a tier 3 CPU extender, same on the other side, removing the screens obviously, and finally the pentaxid tank goes there, stood upright. Oh, and then obviously you can then pop the second Gatling gun there. Now, I have already tried that, and once it's all done, it'll come to just under 29,000 CPU of the 30 you can allocate. Now, that will then leave you obviously 1,000 for things like maybe you could pop some hover boosters on the bottom, or maybe a fridge because it doesn't come with one. Maybe you could upgrade some of the hardened steel to combat steel. That will use up some of the CPU. Or maybe you can improve its agility even more and pop in RCS or 3 or 2 or 1. Oh, and yeah, like I said, please don't auto-group. But I have left the auto-groups, the device groups ready. So if you do add any of the hover boosters, there's the jump booster device group there. The shield group is there. Pentaxid tank goes in with the fuel tanks. Unless you want to add a pentaxid tank group. I mean, that's up to you, of course. In case you want to add armor lockers and fridges, I've left those. The extra Gatling gun goes in the fixed weapons group there. Was that it? Oh, the generators, they go in power generation. Fuel tanks, as I said, is there. And the CPU extenders go in that one there. Right, now, before I let you go, as is usual with my Armoured Fighting Hover Vehicles series, I do give you a selection of colours. Now, this is the first time that this colour has actually been included in the tour video. It used to be a poo-poo brown, but I've decided to get rid of that. So, it comes with the desert sand colour. Oh, it comes in the desert sand, but it also comes with, if you would like to use it, a military... I swear I pressed that. I swear I pressed that. So it comes with a military green. It also comes in an Arctic white, which as you can tell is ever so slightly blue. And it also comes in this dark grey, which is even more slightly blue. And I can prove it is slightly blue because it has 41 blues and only 40 of the greens and the reds. And in case you're curious, that's the ice white, the Arctic white. I suppose you could call it ice white. There's the military green. There's the sand. What? What did it just change? Okay, whatever. Right, there we go then. So thank you very much for taking an interest in the Fox LightHoverTank. I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in a different video for another build. Or another video for a different build. That's the way around it should be. So thank you again, and goodbye.